Welcome to the So You're Ready to Date podcast. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Angie. And here's where we talk about all things dating, love, and relationships. And most importantly, having fun.
Join us for practical advice for dating successfully on your terms.
Welcome aboard
and enjoy the ride. Welcome back to another episode of So You're Ready to Date, the podcast. If you can believe it, we're at the end of season 5. And typically as we close out a season, we like to do a retrospective, a look back, pull out the best bits. But this time we thought we would mix it up, try something different. So we're going to talk about best of the bad dating advice, all of the advice that your best friends, your mom, your aunt, your coworker, the girl at the grocery store have been giving you. And while you know, hopefully it's coming from a good, kind, loving place, maybe you're more of like, can you just stop? Can you just shove that advice because I don't need it anymore? Or I don't want to hear it anymore.
I think we've all been there. And we all go through those phases, right? And I think back to what it was like when you were much younger, maybe in your early 20s or your teens even, and you were dating, and one of the things is, well, you need to make sure you like what he likes.
Yeah.
Right? I think that was one of the first ones that I heard was, well, he's not going to like you if you don't like what he likes. You need to like what he likes. And man, was that some awful advice.
Or don't eat on a date. Many times, like, just order the salad. Don't order anything messy. Don't order anything that's gonna make you look like a human who has caloric needs. No, just eat like a girl, right?
Right. Don't, yeah. I think I got that one. I still get that one. Well, I don't, because we've been together long enough that he's seen me eat and drop about everything on my clothing at this point. But don't order crab legs, don't order spaghetti, don't order anything that is going to make a mess.
I kind of always felt like the list of rules was like, okay, don't wear white because if you're going to drop something, then it's going to show. Or make sure. I was like, sometimes it gets overwhelming with the amount of things that I'm supposed to keep track of, plus also be charming and insightful and witty and like a fun date. I'm like, I'm worried that maybe my hair and my makeup's wrong.
Don't kiss on a first date. That makes you look easy.
Right? They won't buy the cow if you give away the milk for free. Men are only after one thing, and I'm sure there's a vast majority of them who are, but I think there was just a lot of, especially when we were younger, advice on how to not be you, but how to be a version that they were going to like so that you could end up having a boyfriend. Because I can remember at that point, it was way more important to have a boyfriend as opposed to actually liking said boyfriend.
Yes. And, that led to some very unhappy times in my life when you think about how important it was to be the nurturer, be the one taking care of, be the one that is liked. And man, what that does to your self-esteem too. And the recovery time from that. It's pretty brutal to recover from something like that and build yourself back up and realize that you don't have to be liked to be worthy. And the person that you're on a date with, if they don't like you, then they're not the one. And you don't have to make yourself more likable for them.
Well, I think it's something that has been told to me like several times from like, not everybody is going to like you. And then I stopped like, but I don't like everybody, but it still stings, right? This thought that not everybody is going to like you. And if you're really honest and step back, do you really want to like everybody that you go out with? It makes it so much harder to be like, yeah, I like you, but I don't feel this connection, as opposed to being, yeah, this is not it. Sometimes it needs to be very black and white. Be like, no, we are way too different for this. Thank you for showing me this. I can now go on my own way in peace.
I like that. See, that's good advice. Thank you for showing me this. I know that this isn't right. I'm moving over here now.
Yes. So I think probably we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the classic, and the one that I hate with every fiber of my being is that it'll happen when you stop looking. Could we stop telling single people that it'll happen when you least expect it? It'll happen. Just, I know it's probably coming from this good place, but stop. Just stop. It's not good advice anymore. I don't know if it ever was, but it's been repeated ad nauseum to this point where it just feels like you're almost rubbing it in my face that you were lucky enough to, because it comes typically from people who are already happily coupled, married, maybe they're unhappily coupled, I don't know, but from people who have maybe found somebody. And it always has this like tinge of not condensation, condescension. There's the word. I'm like, I'm happy that you met your husband and you're deeply in love and you've known each other since preschool. It doesn't work out like that for a lot of people. And it's okay to be looking. I think that's an okay place to be wanting this and searching for this and trying for this. And does it need to be your personality and your whole focus? No. But telling people that they should just ignore it and turn their back and play dumb and it'll automatically, like a bus on a street, just pop up in front of them, I think just feels really dismissive of whatever journey you're on when it comes to love.
That's an interesting point. And, I think we should discuss that a little bit, because I think when I was listening to that and single, to me, it didn't come, I didn't feel the same way about that statement. But I do feel that people that say that statement are trying to say something that they don't know how to express in words. And those are the words that they use to express something that they don't know how to say. And the thing is it is not stop looking and you'll find it. It is go be yourself and it will happen, because you are out there making friends, interacting with people and doing things that you enjoy, and you are out there being confident and happy, which will automatically attract what you're looking for.
Wow. You have a much better perspective on other people than I do, because I'm like, bullshit. I feel very jaded by the fact that my very visceral reaction to that was no. No, that can't be right. But that's a much kinder way that where people might be coming from, to give them the benefit of the doubt, as opposed to being like, well, that is a jerky thing to say. Could you just shut up?
I do like to try and hear what people are trying to say versus what they are actually saying. And sometimes that gets me in trouble too, because I hear much kinder things than people actually mean sometimes. But, I do like to give people the benefit of the doubt. So that's fair.
But I think that sometimes it shows where our biases are, right? It shows where maybe we're a little bit like jaded or we're a little bit suspect, or maybe where we have more growth to do is if we're always looking at it from somebody's just coming at this, trying to nitpick at me, trying to show me that they're better than me. And that's why they're giving me this advice, as opposed to trying to look at it from maybe they are just trying to be kind. Maybe there is not necessarily a bad ulterior motive, but maybe a kinder, gentler ulterior motive to that piece of advice.
And that takes me back to one of the things that trained me, quote unquote. I don't know if it was the training, but one of the things that really opened my eyes to looking at it from a better, more kinder perspective, whether it be this advice or whether it be anything else. And I know sometimes I get really guilty of, but what I hear you saying is, and it will be something different. And it comes from Brene Brown, when she said, what if we genuinely believe that people are doing the best that they can? Would we take this differently? Would we think of this differently and not of an attack if we genuinely believe that the person we're talking to is doing the best that they can?
Right. It was something, a corporate job I worked years ago where part of their like credo was to assume innocence. So to assume that this is coming from a place of, but I have such a wonderful, happy relationship, and you're such a wonderful, awesome person. I just want that for you too, because I know not only do you deserve it, but you would make an awesome wife, partner, girlfriend, whatever it is. And that's a much softer landing to that advice, being like, yeah, but you're so awesome. You deserve somebody so awesome. So I just want you to have that.
Yes. And I think even we did an episode a while back, and if you go listen to it, I'm sure that anybody that listens to it can kind of hear the little disagreement. It was our Valentine's Day episode. And the it's okay to be single versus, the solo thing, and kind of talking about that and what that requirement was. And I think sometimes there is this date yourself, or I don't even remember exactly what we were talking about, but you could definitely, I remember the tension in that episode when we kind of had a different perspective on things. And it's that same thing when you come up and you hear that cliche advice from people. I really do think that if you look at it, a lot of times people don't know how to put in words what they're actually trying to say, just in general.
Yeah. And I think, especially if you have been in the dating journey for any kind of extended length of time, it's rough. It's rough out there. And it can get to a point where it feels very defeating and just not fun. And so sometimes you're in this mindset of like, I just need to complain that this is not fun. I don't need you to like try and find the silver lining. I just need you to agree with me for half a second that it's a dumpster fire and you're right. You deserve so much better. But, if you've gone on this year after year after year, it feels very cliche and it feels very almost out of touch. You're just like, but you're not in the you're not in the depths of it. Like a couple of my friends who've been married for significant periods of time, they're like, oh, I don't know how you do it. I could never do it. I'm like, that's sometimes why it feels not like it's coming from a good place, because you're so far removed from having all of these bad dates and being ghosted and texting and guys really expecting, or girls expecting so much, or a specific thing on a date, that it feels like you're not in the trenches. You can't really know. So it can come off as very combative and defensive if you're on the receiving end, regardless
Yes.
of how well intentioned. Because I will raise my hand. I was guilty of that a lot. I'm like, just shut up. You don't know how bad it is out there.
And it is when you're trying to find the one, and you're not in the I'm just having fun with the wrong ones right now. It is a dumpster fire. And I'm going to get up on that stage and preach with you. It's awful. You're getting ghosted and you're going out on these bad dates where you don't click with people. You are doing the small talk thing over and over and over again. And how quickly do you just get over having the same conversation? Well, what do you do? What do you like? Forget it. Let's talk about the weather at this point. That would be more entertaining. So yes, I totally agree with you. And sometimes it is just commiserating. And once you've been out of the game for a little while, it's really easy to forget how hard it can be when you are going through all of the wrong ones. And so when you say that you're dating the wrong ones and it's just giving you perspective on the right ones, that also feels very cliche. However, I do also believe that that is true, that you have to know what you don't want so that you know what you do want. If you listen to last week's episode where you even talked about it, you're like, thank you for showing me what I don't want.
Well, and I think for anybody who feels like a particular pressure, for women especially, we have a certain number of years. If you want a family, where having a family is somewhat easier than if you wait. And so if you feel like there is this clock on when you want to have like your career at this certain place, starting a family, being, all of these things, there's then this added pressure to not only being out there and dating and trying to find someone, there's also this idea of like, oh my gosh, my biological clock is is getting louder and louder every year. And so if there are certain things you want, then yeah, it makes the whole search for that somebody, it just adds that extra level of stress and anxiety when you feel like I want these things. If they're not coming, I feel like I'm running out of time. And that can be really sad when you have to start looking at your life and your future and having some real conversations with yourself about, okay, if I'm not finding the one and I still want a family, do I have a plan C, D, E, and F or Z? What am I going to do so that I can have this life that I want, which may not come in the package that AI was promised by everybody in every fairy tale, every rom com, every family member, and B, that might be harder than I was anticipating because it might be me doing more stuff on my own and not having that partner support to do some of that stuff with.
Yeah. But, and I'm not in this situation, so it's easy for me to say, right? Sometimes it seems cliche, but know that there are other options, and that no matter what situation you're in, there are options. They may not be ideal options. It may not be exactly what you were looking for. It may not be the path you thought you were going to walk. And so sometimes that takes taking a step back and evaluating, what do I want? Why do I want it? And what am I willing to sacrifice to get it? And when you do that, there are options no matter what that looks like. So I'm going to give very cliche dating advice and say you are just fine exactly where you're at with exactly what you're doing. And if you want advice on how to break out, grow into yourself, and really develop interest and meet new people, whether that be through dating apps or whether that be through actual activities that you're going out and doing, listen to all of our past episodes, because that is a common theme throughout everything that we talk about, is really talking about how to be the best version of you and bring your authentic self to any relationship that you engage in to help make your relationships stronger, whether that's a first date or 6 years from now.
I'm going to go back to something that you said, like how many times can you ask, hey, what's your favorite drink? What's your favorite color? What do you do? Is that a lot of times it's this advice that it's a numbers game. And the more dates you go on, the more likely you're going to find that person. I'm not saying that that's not the case, but it's a fast track to dating burnout. Because there are only so many times that you can do lunch with one guy, drinks with somebody else, dinner the next day. So if that is working for you, as always, then keep doing it, because we want you to keep doing what works for you and what you feel empowered and excited about. But don't dismiss intentional dating. Go out with people you are actually interested in. Go out with people that you like, that you want to get to know. And I would, even when I was dating, I enjoyed it so much more when I went out with people that I was excited about the date. There's always going to be nerves and a little bit of apprehension, but I'm like, ooh, can't wait to talk to this person, or to see what we have in common, or, to find out, just meeting a new person, as opposed to we're like, well, he matched with me. He doesn't seem too bad. I guess, there should not be this like, I guess. Being intentional about only wanting to go out with people who give you some sort of like excitement and curiosity of you want to learn more. And it may be far fewer dates than other people think are wise. And really, who's to say what's the, the right number as well. But dating should be fun. And if it's turning into a job, then now's the time to stop and reevaluate. Why am I dating? Do I need to take a break? Do I need to delete the apps for a month or two, find my center again, and then try this? Because, like Angie said, it'll be okay. You're not running too far behind. You're not too late. It's going to work out. But making sure that you're taking care of yourself first should be a bigger priority.
This is really funny. I love that. I think that's great advice. But I think this is really funny because when we came on, we were talking about how we were going to talk about the worst dating advice we received. And we have given you some great advice in this episode. So don't think it's all filled with the worst of the worst, because some of this has been probably the best of the best. And one of the best things is, if it doesn't feel good and it's not fun, take a break. Take a break, step away, go do something else.
I feel like we just perfectly showcased that we are incapable of doing an episode that doesn't include us. Trying to help point people in a direction that feels better and more authentic to them. Because we talked about this before we started recording. We're like, yeah, we'll just talk about the best of the worst. It doesn't have to be about giving advice. That's what all our other episodes are for. And silly, silly women, we should have just known that, this is just who we are at our core, is that we want to help people learn from our mistakes so that hopefully you're probably not going to skip all of them, but maybe it'll give you some insight as to why this is happening or why you made that particular choice.
Right? Totally. And I think that's good too. Good. Well, it can be good or bad, but to reflect on what it is that you really liked about past dates or past relationships, and what you really didn't like about past dates or past relationships. And while it might be a numbers game, there is definitely more that you can put into the process than just dating massive quantities of people. However, if you're having fun and you want to do that, I'm not going to dissuade you from that. But there is definitely more that you can put into that. And just having that clarity can help you. So when they just say that you need to go on more dates, that might be true, but come listen to us and we'll tell you how to be intentional about it.
And since we're still sort of talking about dating, we haven't really talked about dating profiles in a while, but this seems like a good time to bring it up. Don't lie about anything on your dating profile. 2 years or more current, about 2 years back is all the farther. That's usually like wiggle room for pictures. If you're putting high school pictures out there and you are in your 40s, please don't. Just don't. I think it's easy to want that dopamine hit of people swiping on you, but the very real betrayal and disappointment that people feel when they show up on a date and you look nothing like the profile picture, nothing like this idea that people are building in their head. And then you have to come out and be like, hey, I'm going to be straight with you. I'm not single. I'm separated. We're almost divorced. It said no kids, but I really have 5 kids. So it was like all of these things come out and they're like, how are you supposed to build anything when everything feels like it started with a lie? So truth is always going to be better. Kindness and clarity are always going to be better. And yes, it may make that process a little bit longer, but in the long run, you will actually find somebody who is supposed to be your somebody.
Yes, I love that, because I think a lot of times there is a pressure to put some of that fakeness or embellish or to say certain things on those online dating profiles because they're catchwords or buzzwords, or they're more likely to get people to swipe one way or the other. And I have to agree that that is terrible advice if you are listening to anybody telling you to do that. And I think we probably should revisit this next season and talk about those dating profiles again, because there are definitely things that are very common on dating profiles that people will give you the advice and tell you to do it that are definitely turn offs and make that dating process a lot harder.
Exactly. So we would love to hear your best worst advice, or maybe your best advice. Whatever advice that either really worked for you, or advice that was just no. We want to hear the advice that you have received, because we'll be doing this again. I think we just touched the tip of the iceberg about dating advice, because it's very common everywhere. So make sure to email us at so you're ready to date at gmail.com. Any questions, any topic suggestions, any guests you might want us to talk to, we're open to any and all of that. And go and hit all of the buttons, right? Subscribe, like, share, rate and review, all of that stuff, because we want more people to be able to find us and our advice. And as always, we appreciate you taking some time out of your day to spend with us and listen to us talk about wonderful dating advice.